This video is brought to you by Glasshammer Gaming. Use the code CommandPhase to get an extra 5% off your models and hobby supplies. A link to their store is in the video description below. Hello and welcome to the Command Phase. My name is Mark and thank you so much for joining me. With the launch of Age of Sigmar 4th edition, one of the most enjoyable formats in Spearhead is now available for you to play. In this video, we're going to discuss everything you need to know to get playing, so if you do enjoy the content and find it useful, please do hit all those magical YouTube buttons below, as it makes a huge difference to the channel. There will also be timestamps in the description below if you'd like to jump to a specific part of the video you need information on. So without any further ado, let's get stuck in. To play Spearhead, first of all you will need an army. There are 25 great spearheads to choose from currently, most of which have spearhead boxes, although some are still labelled as Vanguard boxes. Not to worry though, as these are all supported in this game format. Next would be the core rules for the game. These explain the basics of Age of Sigmar with the likes of moving, shooting, fighting and so on to allow you to play the game. This is the only module of the rules that you'll need. No advanced rules are necessary. You can either purchase the Age of Sigmar rulebook should you wish to, pick up the Fire and Jade book where they'll be located at the back, or there is the free digital download on the Warhammer community website for you to use. A link to this will be in the description below. Speaking of rules, you'll also need the faction rules for your Spearhead army. These can either be found in the Fire and Jade book or for free inside each of the faction packs on the Warhammer community website. These rules will be at the end of each of these packs and contain everything you need to know to run each force. This is something we'll go over in more detail later on in the video. Next up would be the board and accessories to play with. There is the Fire and Jade Gaming Pack, which contains the double-sided board with the printed objectives for each of the two realms, Garan and Akshi. This board is 30 by 22 inches in size. You'll also need the terrain to be able to play, which is a set of 2 large and 2 small pieces, the twist deck which corresponds to each realm, and of course the 2 identical battle tactic decks, one for each of the players. Just to note, while you can buy this pack which contains all the required accessories, it may well be worth looking on the secondary market like eBay, as these items were all inside the Skaven Tide box set. So if you didn't grab one of those boxes at launch, you should be able to buy all the parts you need at a reduced price. Just something to keep in mind. And last of all, you'll need some D6 dice plus a tape measure, and then you'll be ready to go. In terms of the faction rules, each of the armies has a roster which doesn't change and is the contents of each of the Spearhead boxes. This contains your general and all of the remaining units. While some kits may well have different options that you can build, you'll need to stick to the ones in the army roster in the rules, which is typically the models you see presented on the front of the box. If you're unsure, you can double check with these rules before building your models. In terms of the actual rule set, each faction will have its own set of battle traits, which are your army's special rules to utilise in the game. Then you do have some options between the 2 regiment abilities for your force and 4 different enhancements that your general can take. These can be selected before the battle starts and gives you some options depending on your opponent and what you feel will be better suited. Using the Seraphon as an example here, you have a choice of regiment abilities with either Predatory Fighters, which gives the Seraphon more damage output in melee if you feel you need it, or you have a defensive option with Temple City Guardians, giving you a 6+ ward save while wholly within friendly territory, which could come in clutch if you feel you need the extra help against an aggressive force. Plus, with the enhancements, the good thing about being able to choose just before the game starts means that if you're going up against, say, Nighthaunt as an example, you wouldn't want to take Blade of Realities, which gives your Saurus Old Blood +1 to rend to its melee weapon, as this would be negated by the Nighthaunt's Ethereal passive battle trait, which ignores rend. This means you'll have the ability to choose one that you think will be better suited to each game. Then you have the WARSCROLLS for your units that give you all the information that you need for their profiles, weapons, keywords, and any abilities they may have. These WARSCROLLS have been tailored specifically for Spearhead, so cannot be used when playing the main game. There are a couple of things to keep an eye on here for your force. Any units with the reinforcements keyword will also have this icon in the top right of their war scroll to make it easier to see. If they do have this keyword, then they can use the Call for Reinforcements ability to replace the unit the first time they were destroyed in your next movement phase. The other thing to note is to do with wizards and priests. Some units may have these keywords in the game, although they act differently in Spearhead compared to the full version. This is because we don't use the magic module in the advanced rules for this format. There are no unbinds or chances for them to miscast. These are resolved just like any other ability in the game. I'll be planning to go through the rules for each faction in future videos, so if that is something that you're interested in, let me know in the comments section below. In terms of the battlefield you'll be playing your games on, there are currently two to choose from. Akshi, the Realm of Fire, and Garan, the Realm of Life. These are printed on a two-sided board which comes as part of the Fire and Jade pack, although any 30 by 22 inch board will do the trick. The key differences between each realm are the twist decks, which we'll talk about in a moment, and the objective marker locations on the board. As you can see in the pictures here, the Akshi side of the board has one in the centre and then one in each corresponding corner, while the Garan side of the board has three spread across the middle of the board, with the outer two overhanging the edge and then two in opposite corners. These layouts add variety to the game, and each of the objective markers are named after a mythical god beast. Three of these also correspond to certain battle tactics that you may have to try and achieve to score victory points, so it's worth taking note which icon is which. In regards to these objectives in game, it is worth noting that these are sticky, so if you control the objective at the start of your turn, you remain in control of it until your opponent takes it from you. So you're able to move your models away from the objective, and you still keep control of it for scoring primary and certain battle tactics in the game. Terrain also plays a part in the game, and you have two large pieces and two small pieces on the board which are set up at the beginning of the game. Each player sets up one of each size wholly within their territory, more than 6 inches away from all other terrain features and more than 3 inches from both along board edges and enemy territory. They also cannot be set up on top of the objectives. It is worth noting that these terrain pieces also have the following passive abilities in the game depending on its size. Cover provides -1 to hit for attacks that target a unit that is behind or wholly on this terrain feature unless that unit charged or has the fly keyword. Obscuring means that a unit cannot be targeted by shooting attacks if it is behind or wholly on this terrain feature unless it has the fly keyword. And lastly, unstable means that models cannot be set up or end any type of move on any part of this terrain feature that is more than 1 inch tall. These are all pretty straightforward rules to remember for these terrain features in the game. Spearhead decks are sets of cards to be used in the battles. First up are the twist decks, with one for each side of the board. These provide a special rule that applies to the current battle round being played. Often, these cards provide benefits to the underdog as a way of a catch-up mechanic to keep the games close, which honestly do a pretty good job. However, if there is no underdog, then there will be a roll-off, and the winner of this can choose the underdog effect, which is typically stated on the cards. The other deck is the Battle Tactic deck. This consists of 12 cards which are identical for both players that you draw from throughout the game. These cards are split into two halves. On the top you have a Battle Tactic, which you can score a victory point for if you meet the conditions at the end of your turn, while on the bottom half you have a Command ability which provides you an immediate benefit. These are powerful abilities to help during the game, but as you can only pick one half to use, you have to decide carefully if you need the ability for a key play or you prefer the victory points. The command abilities themselves will let you know when each can be used, both written and using the color coding system alongside what effect they will have. Once the ability has been used, the card is discarded face up. You are also able to use multiple cards on the same unit should you wish to. You would typically keep these cards hidden from your opponent during gameplay in order to keep the tactics you're trying to achieve or the command abilities secret from your opponent. In order to get started for the game and ready to play, you will need to follow these steps. First up, you will both roll off and the winner chooses who is going to be the attacker and defender for the game. The attacker then picks their regiment ability and enhancement before the defender then does the same. The defender then decides which side of the board they're going to play on, either Akshi or Garan. The defender then picks one of two deployment types and which territory belongs to which player. The defender then sets up their two pieces of terrain, followed by the attacker, following these simple rules. They must be wholly within friendly territory, more than 6 inches away from all other terrain pieces, more than 3 inches away from the long board edges, more than 3 inches away from enemy territory, and they cannot be set up on top of an objective marker. Once this is all done, the attacker then sets up all of their units first, wholly within their territory and more than 6 inches away from enemy territory. The defender then does the same. After this, you take the twist deck corresponding to the board and shuffle this ready for the game and place it face down next to the board. You then take one of the battle tactics decks each, again shuffling before placing face down. You're now ready to get started. At the start of each of the 4 battle rounds a game of Spearhead lasts for, you'll need to do the following in this order. If it's the first battle round, the attacker chooses who is going to take the first turn, else both players make a priority roll and the winner then decides. Do note that if the player who went second in the previous battle round wins the priority roll and decides to go first, it is called seizing the initiative, or the infamous double turn. If the player decides to do this, they won't draw any more battle tactics cards for this round unless they are the underdog and the difference in victory points is 5 or more. After deciding who is going to go first this turn, you would then determine who the underdog is. This will be the player with the least number of victory points. If both players are on the same number, then there is no underdog. After this, draw the twist card and follow the rules as shown as it's drawn. Then the players will draw their battle tactics cards following these simple rules. At the start of the first battle round, each player draws 3 battle tactics cards. At the start of each of the following turns, each player can decide whether they want to keep any of the battle tactic cards they may still have, or discard them face up. Then each player draws cards until they have 3 in their hand. Last of all, any abilities with the start of battle round timing are now used. For each battle round, you would follow the Age of Sigmar battle sequence as you would for any game. Each of these are colour-coded for simplicity, allowing you to determine when each of your abilities for your armies or commands on the battle tactic cards can be used if you wish to. In terms of scoring in Spearhead, there are a variety of ways to gain victory points, with the typical ways being the following. You score 1 point if you control at least 1 objective, you score another point if you control 2 or more objectives, and you score another point if you control more objectives than your opponent. Last of all, you score 1 point for each battle tactic you completed this turn. Some of the twist cards allow you to score more victory points as well, so there are opportunities for some explosive turns. And of course, at the end of battle round 4, the player with the highest number of points is the winner. So there we have a guide on how to play the amazing Spearhead format. With a wide variety of armies to choose from, the element of randomness from the cards and some of the choices you have in construction, this is a fantastic game to get started learning to play Age of Sigmar, and honestly a great competitive game too. Let me know in the comments section below which Spearhead you're looking to get started with, or if there is another force you're looking to add into your collection. I'd love to know. I really do hope you found this video useful, and if you did, please hit that like and subscribe button as it really helps the channel to grow. I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has watched any of the videos on the channel. At the time of recording, the channel is officially 1 year old, and honestly, getting past 4,000 subscribers is an incredible achievement that I'm very proud of. Here's to another year and seeing where we can get to with your help. Thank you all so much for watching the command phase, and I'll see you in the next video.